One thing that I've fallen in love with and that has changed my entire life is reading and studying the Word for yourself. And I absolutely love to dive deep alone just because I don't feel rushed from other people. But the really cool thing is that there are a lot of resources and apps, like commentaries, multiple translations, videos that help you understand what's going on. And so I really encourage you to study for yourself, but then also get involved in groups as well and join church. Have a variety of ways to take in the Word. It will change your life. Trust me. Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. It's your girl CicelyRenee, and this is She Sits at His Feet, and we talk all things faith-based, lifestyle, all of that. And so I'm glad you're here. I hope all is well. We are reading through the Bible in 52 weeks, and I'm not sure how many video recaps I'm going to do, but if you keep coming back, you're going to encourage me to keep posting these, okay? So this is Exodus chapters 4 through 7. And so if you haven't checked out the other one, make sure you go and do that, all right? And so also remember, we have a Facebook group where we're doing this in, and we're meeting up on Tuesdays from 5:20 to 6:30-ish. Central Standard Time on Zoom, where we discuss things that stood out to us, all right? All right, let's talk about chapter 4. So Moses is still like, why me? I'm struggling. I don't speak well, all of these things. And, God is just like, okay, Moses, I got you. I'm going to be with you, right? And has control over everything. So why are you stressed out when this isn't about you? And so I'm just grateful that God didn't give up on Moses and he still continued with his mission. So Moses is obedient, like he listens to God, but he's just hesitant, right? And that's similar to like all of us. Like he tells us something to do and we're like, what? Really? Is that me? I don't have the experience. I don't have the, education or whatever it may be. The guy's like, I got you. Like, I'm just going to do this. But he was still really obedient. So like the staff in his hand, right? That was really cool because what happened was like, God was like, okay, you see that staff? Drop it on the floor, and it turned into a serpent. And not just like a small little, snake. It had to have been massive and scary because Moses ran. And I'm just like, I started cracking up when I read that. And I was just like, So, but the thing is, because it was so crazy and big and scary, God still told him to pick it up by his tail, which is the worst spot to pick up a snake. You never pick it up by his tail because it can come and attack you. It still has its mouth available, right? But he did it, and then it turned back. And so like that, there was that like safety, aspect of things. Like God's got you. He's not going to harm you. And it was kind of like, a message saying that, your enemies are not going to hurt you. You're going to be good, Moses. Get it together. So, Moses is still like, what if people don't listen? What if Pharaoh doesn't listen? And we already know that that's the case because, back with the burning bush, God said it's not going to be easy. And so I don't know why he forgot that, but it's okay. We are still moving along. There was a part where God was like, I'm gonna harden Pharaoh's heart. And I was just like, my first question was like, why did you harden his heart then, God? Like, why did you just, let it be? But I read somewhere that, God didn't do what was against Pharaoh's will, right? He already had it in his heart to be like angry and mean and just, evil to people. And so God just let him have what he wanted to have, right? His heart's desires, and God was just like, I'm going to let him do what he wants to do. And so then I was just like, okay, that makes sense. All right. And so now Moses is going to his father-in-law, and he was just like, you know what? I need to leave. I need to go somewhere. He got permission from his father-in-law, and then they left. And one thing that really stood out to me on this journey, they were camping or whatever, and Moses, God wanted to kill Moses. God was like, did this dude, like, I just can't, I'm just like, I feel like I would be like, I know this dude still didn't do what I told him to do or whatever. And so God was about to kill Moses because his baby was uncircumcised. And so his wife Zipporah had a little attitude, and she cut it and tossed it to Moses and was like, come on, let's go. So this was a thing because, God was like, I cannot use you. You're supposed to still do what I have commanded you to do. And so all the men, have to get circumcised. And so Moses almost died that night. But his wife was like, okay, we're going to get this together. We're going to get this together. So one thing that really stood out to me in this chapter, and then just all the chapters too, because Moses kept saying, I'm not eloquent in speech. Like, I stutter, I'm slow, and all this stuff. And I'm just like, but didn't you grow up in Egyptian royalty where education was like priority? Like, he spent 40 years in Egypt getting all this amazing, knowledge and, education, whatever you may call it. And then all of a sudden, 40 years after that, he's just like, I can't speak. But what I learned was that, he had become like a shepherd, right? And so he has been spending all his time talking to sheep, and so his whole demeanor change. He has low self-confidence. Someone said that this was needed because Moses had this, strong self-confidence when he was in Egypt. Remember when he went to go kill the Egyptian man, and he was like standing up and speaking out, and then he had this self, determination to save the day. But God was like, okay, we need to knock you down a little bit. We need to humble you. And so then that time was spent so that now God can get the glory instead of, Moses. So they are in Egypt now. All right, chapter 5. This is when Aaron and Moses goes and confronts Pharaoh. And Pharaoh's like not amused. He's unmoved. He's like, whatever. And so he's just like, who is this guy? Like, who is he to me? And so that was unfortunate because he's in for a rude awakening, right? So now, Pharaoh is just like, I am about to whip y'all into shape because you over here complaining when you could be working. And so, you know what? I'm going to make this harder for you. And so, unfortunately, he made it worse for the Israelites. The Egyptians were helping getting the straw so that they can make the bricks to build whatever they were building, right? And Pharaoh's like, you know what? Let them go get their own straw. And they still got to do all the work. And I'm just like, poor people. I just can't. And so now the Israelites are just like, what did you do, Moses and Aaron? Like, what? You guys said we were about to be saved. They were super excited back in chapter 4. And now in 5, they're like, you know what? This is not what I signed up for. And so they have a broken spirit. They're just like depressed. They're sad. They're like, they don't see anything becoming better, right? And so they have this mentality of, their Pharaoh, the person that's leading them is stronger than God, because obviously I'm getting beat, I am working, my bones off or whatever. And so they're not happy. And now Moses is just like, dang, I messed up again. And so Moses is just like so sad that he was this instrument of making it worse. And so he's just like, God, what is going on? Why are you doing this? You said you were going to save them. You're going to do this, but you haven't done it. And God is just like, what? What? Okay, wait. Watch me work. So one of the key points here is to know that they were coming from slavery into this beautiful promise-free land, but he's like, we're gonna have to work on some character. We're gonna work on this mentality. We need to put you into shape. Like, you're not just about to go over here, and not realize who your father is, right? He's like, you will know that I am your Lord. You are my people. I'm here. And so things might have to get bad before they get better, right? And so it's all about, pruning and preparing you for what's next. It's just like you want to be smart about things. So he's just like, okay, we need to, get you into shape before we head over into this next link. And then they go through the genealogy. This is chapter 6 too. So I kind of merged 5 and 6. Forgive me. But yeah. And so one of the parts that I highlighted was about what God was saying. And I'm going to read it here. It says the promises, and these are called the 7 I will promises. And so first one, I promise I will bring you out. I will rescue you from your bondage. I will redeem you. I will take you as my people. I will be your God. I will bring you into the land, and I will give it to you as an inheritance. And that is still applicable to today. Like, this is for his people. Like, he will bring us out. This is something we can hold on to daily, knowing that there's an inheritance, that God is there for us. He wants to keep us. He wants the best for us. And so I'm going to write that down and post it somewhere so that I can see it all the time. So it's like my, affirmation from God, and he's got me. Things are going to be good. All right, so now we're in chapter 7, and this one is wild because there's magic involved, right? And so here we have, Moses and Aaron doing these miracles in front of Pharaoh, right? And Pharaoh is unimpressed. He's like, get this out of my face. So one thing happened where, Aaron tossed his rod, his staff on the ground, and it turned into a serpent. But this serpent isn't like a snake serpent. It's more of a crocodile. So this is when you guys go back to, Bible Hub and read the original language and see what that word meant in the Strong's Concordance, right? But this was a crocodile. And, then all of a sudden, Pharaoh was like, get my magicians, let them do this too. And they did it. But what was funny is that Aaron's ate theirs. And I just thought that was hilarious because God was like, okay, and what? And so we got these magicians doing things. And so my idea is that, Satan can do things, and they were into like dark powers and magic and stuff like that. So this wasn't brand new, but it's just like all about timing too, because God is just like, I'm about to do this right now, whenever, and it happens. And so then we are going to tap into the plagues. So in chapter 7, we start off with the first plague, which he turns the Nile River into blood, nasty, stinky blood. And the Egyptians can't drink it. And one of the crazy things is that, the magicians decided to do the same thing, which was crazy because instead of turning the water or the blood back to water, they turned it into more blood. Like, what sense does that make? They were like, I can do it too. And so I read somewhere that, Satan, the enemy, can't do good things. And so it's like, why would you make more blood and not help out the situation? If your people, Pharaoh, come on, get it together. Tell them they should have made it water, but they didn't. And so I thought that was hilarious. So some of the things that I'm going to apply to my life is, one, being willing to be used for God. So like, God got mad at Moses because he was just being stubborn. He was being unwilling. He could do it. God could do it. Like, if he had that confidence, he just didn't want to do it. Like, he knew God could do all these things. Like, he turned a staff into a serpent. He turned water into blood. He did all these things, and he just was like, find someone else to do it. And I'm just like, that's not how we should approach God, right? And so I do thank God for his mercy and grace. And so this shows us how merciful and how loving and patient God really is, because he could have just been like, you know what? Psh, you about to be a slave for the rest of your life. And that would not have been good, right? The next thing is just like, God uses what you have. And so Moses has had a staff in his hand for 40 years, as a shepherd, and so he used that staff to give glory to God. And it's just like, okay, what do I have in my hand? What am I using, that God can use later on in life? And so I'm like, maybe I was being super literal. When I was writing, I was like, I got a pen. I got a paintbrush. And so I'm just like thinking about how God will use what I have been using for his glory whenever he's like, Cicely, it's your time to go. And I'm like, okay, let's do this. And so that was another thing. The last thing that I wanted to point out is that God will take us and prepare us and mold us and break us down and, build us back up so that when it's time for us to go, we are in a better place. We're stronger. We can endure, and, no matter what's going to happen. And so I do like the fact that, Israelites had to suffer even more so that whatever's going to happen, they will have strength, right? And the same with Moses, because he had to do the same thing with Moses. He had to work on his heart and get him to endure what's going to happen, because this is just the beginning of the story. There's so much more that's about to happen. And I'm just like, oh my God, that preparation. We need that preparation, okay? And so I want y'all to let me know what your points were that stood out to you in chapters 4 through 7 in the comments below. And again, I would love to have you join me in the Facebook group, and I'll leave all that in the description box below. Peace and blessings.